Thank you, Mr. Gandhi, for your opening comments. I'd like to ask you, you spoke about reimagining India, you spoke about catering to certain segments, you spoke about whether it was Dalits, whether it was backwards, having solutions for them. I want to start by asking you certain things in terms of some of the policies of this government. Your government was in power when actually the reform started. Liberalization was ushered in under the Congress dispensation. And yet one has seen in the recent years that the Congress's voice has become very anti-industry. So do you think that to be pro-poor, you need to be anti-big businesses?
I don't think you can develop this country if you think in terms of pro-poor, pro-industry, pro-one segment or another segment. Every single person, every single interest in this country has a role to play. Big business has a role to play. You simply cannot bring jobs to India without businesses. It just can't be done. So if somebody thinks that you're going to bring employment to India without business, that you're going to bring employment to India without small and medium business, without trade, that's just impossible. So I don't view the world in these silos. I view the world as a set of partnerships. And there is a space for everybody. The problem today is that the conversation between these different groups has broken down. So even though farmers and industry have a lot they can do in common, farmers and industry, in fact, have to work together. That conversation isn't taking place. And that's where the real problem is. And it's across the board. So you spoke about Dalits, you spoke about tribals, you spoke about backwards. There needs to be a conversation, a conversation that provides a vision going forward. And that's really what is missing. So you need to speak to all these groups and you need to bring them together and say, okay, what is it that you require? What is it that you require? You need to work out a compromise. You need to move forward. You will not be able to get everything that farmers want. You will not be able to get everything that business wants. But if you start a conversation, you'll go somewhere.
Why do you think this impression?
Yeah. I just want to touch the GST and the demonetization. Demonetization, I mean, there's nobody, no serious economist that will tell you that demonetization wasn't an irrational, ridiculous thing to do. And demonetization just wiped out 2% of our GDP. Our vision of a GST was completely different than the BJP vision. Our vision was a simplified GST, a GST that was not designed to harass. And the GST that actually was delivered was a 5-tier GST that pretty much any small and medium business will tell you that is destroying their lives. So as far as the GST is concerned, we had a different concept of the GST. And frankly, we tried to speak to the government and they really refused to listen. In fact, if that conversation had taken place with the government, you would have probably got a better GST.
Are you happy with the GST now?
No.
You still feel there's a lot of...
It's not really important whether I am happy with the GST or I'm not happy with the GST. What's important is our small and medium business is happy with the GST. Our shopkeepers happy with the GST. Is the backbone of the Indian industry happy with the GST? And they're not. And they clearly are saying that, listen, simplify this thing because it's killing us.
Aadhaar too was an initiative of your government.
Once again, the idea of Aadhaar was to support people, to help people make their lives simpler. And the visualization of Aadhaar now is one of monitoring, one of checking, one of seeing, what is everybody doing. Basically, the difference, frankly, between the current dispensation and our way of thinking is that we trust the people of India, we believe in the people of India, and we think that knowledge lies with you. And we want to listen to you, we want to understand, and we want to work off what you're saying. And as I said in my speech, the current dispensation believes that knowledge lies with them, that understanding lies with them. And they don't feel that there is a need to have a conversation at all. And the problem is that you can't run a country without a conversation. That's the only way you can run a country.
But have you all tried to cooperate and have the conversations?
Yeah, sure.
As a constructive opposition?
Yeah, many times I've sort of attempted conversations, and then it's just, we're snubbed.
At what sort of platforms?
I've said it a number of times. Once Mr. Arun Jaitley came to see me, and I started a conversation on Kashmir. And this was before the violence started up in Kashmir, and I said, we have a serious problem coming in Kashmir. And his answer was, no, we don't. Now, what do you say to that? So I said, okay. I asked him, how many Kashmiri people have you spoken to lately? Because it was pretty clear that a strategic space had been opened out for people who are against India in Kashmir. And it was pretty clear that the politics that was taking place, the alliance between the PDP and the BJP was going to set Kashmir on fire. But there was no interest. There was no interest in listening. And tremendous damage has been caused.
Moving a little to politics, the recent BSP decision to go it alone for the assembly polls, how do you feel this is going to impact the 2019 elections, and how willing is your party to cede space to ambitious allies, even if some of them want space disproportionately?
The alliance in the state and the alliance in the center are different. And I think Mayawati ji has sort of indicated that. We were pretty flexible in the state. In fact, I was more flexible than some of our state leaders. And we were in the midst of a conversation, but I guess they decided to go their own way. I don't see the BSP alliance impacting us much in Madhya Pradesh. I mean, it would have been a good thing to have, but I think we'll win the election in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. I think in the national elections, the parties will come together, particularly in UP.
So you're saying that it does not rule out an alliance for 2019?
I mean, that's the indication we have.
Okay. Yeah. And you feel quite optimistic about the elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh? You mentioned Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh.
Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Telangana, we're pretty confident there.
You're pretty confident of those. Yeah. The religious side of the Congress is becoming very visible, something that one didn't see earlier. A lot of analysts are calling it the soft Hindutva. Is this an endeavor for you to take on the BJP in their own terms, or where is this sudden religious side actually coming from? Is it a conscious effort?
No. I mean, it's interesting. I've been going to temples, gurdwaras, mosques for the last 16 years.
But it's never been publicized.
It really became publicized in Gujarat. But I've been going, even in my last election campaigns, I would go to temples. But suddenly, it is becoming publicized. I guess this type of thing it irritates the BJP. They feel that, only they can go to temples. I don't know. Maybe they don't like it. They don't like it. Also, there's a difference between Hindutva and Hinduism.
Yeah.
Right? Hindutva is a political ideology. Hinduism is a philosophy. So, to say that this is soft Hindutva, no. This has nothing to do with Hindutva. However, I don't see why I can't go to a temple. I don't understand it. I don't see why I can't go to a gurdwara, a church, or a mosque. I don't understand it. My point is, if somebody invites me to something they believe in, me not going there is actually insulting. I as a political leader, if I'm invited somewhere, I need to reach out and I need to stand with those people. But for some reason it irritates the BJP. It actually infuriates them. because they have a sense of monopoly. They want to have a monopoly in everything they deal with. They want to have a monopoly on all the institutions. They want to have a monopoly on, who goes to temples. That's their nature. But that's not India's nature. India's nature is 1.3 billion imaginations. And you really can't suppress them. And that's, frankly, India's strength. And it's chaotic. It's sometimes confusing, but that's what we are. That's how we are different. That's, frankly, our strength. So reimagining India, to me, is allowing those 1.3 billion imaginations to thrive. Reimagining India for the BJP RSS is to shut down that imagination of 1.3 billion people and impose one big imagination on top. It's ineffective, it's boring. I can give you a list of adjectives.
You keep talking about the BJP RSS in a kind of a hyphenated manner. Do you really believe that they're working in tandem on everything? Because one keeps hearing many reports that the RSS may not necessarily be very happy with everything that the government does. But in all your speeches in the last few months, one has always heard you talk about BJP RSS.
There is a ideological war taking place. And the people who define the BJP ideology are the RSS. The BJP, frankly, doesn't really have an understanding of the core ideas that they're fighting for. The RSS has those ideas. The RSS understands those ideas. And on the other side, there are multiple visions that are contesting that one vision. And the Congress party is, frankly, the ideological center of that fight. One of the senior leaders from the opposition who's fought the Congress party for 40 years, he was having a chat with me some months back, and he said, I fought the Congress party for 40 years. And after fighting you for 40 years, I've realized that the ideological center that is fighting the BJP can only be maintained and held by the Congress party. So the Congress party itself is an ideology. It's a set of ideas that we're fighting for. And frankly, these are the ideas that have made India successful till today.
You mentioned that this is the ideology, but the Congress actually does not have the cadre that the RSS has, and the Congress does not have the cadre that the BJP has. You undertook an exercise quite early in your presidentship, and even before that, to try and rebuild the cadres. How successful have you been? And where do you see the Congress now in terms of having its strength at the ground level?
If the Congress were to build a cadre like the BJP, it would become the BJP. So the Congress party can have limited cadres, can have a set of people who are ideologically deeply ingrained, but the Congress party cannot and should never develop the type of cadre system that the RSS has. The aim of the cadre system of the RSS is to capture India's institutions. The aim of the RSS is to capture and infiltrate all Indian institutions. We don't want to do that. We want to leave all institutions alone. We just want to manage the conversation between the institutions. We have never viewed the Supreme Court as something we want to take over. We have never viewed the Election Commission as something we want to take over. That's just not our design. We can't even do it if we want. But the idea of the RSS cadre is to systematically capture one institution after the other and then penetrate that institution with one idea. We are perfectly happy with multiple ideas in this country. In fact, we believe that multiple ideas should exist.
You mentioned the NPAs in the banks. Many would argue that a lot of the NPAs actually accumulated because of the policies undertaken earlier during the UPA time.
No,
what would you do differently?
Mr. Modi argues that every single thing originated because of the Congress party over the last 70 years. So, the fact of the matter is that we have 12 lakh crore NPAs today. And we had 2 lakh crore NPAs during the Congress time. Now, please explain why in 4 years we've gone from 2 to 12 lakhs. I mean, this is not, you can't keep blaming the Congress even when you're in power. They're in government. Please explain to us why India has the highest unemployment in 20 years. Please explain to us why the informal sector, the small and medium business back is broken. You can't keep saying that these are policies of the Congress party. I mean, if you give us that much importance, then let us run the place. We'll show you how to fix it. But the problem again is that visions don't come from 3 or 4 people. Visions come from a conversation with millions of people. And you really can't run India by isolating yourself, by cocooning yourself, and then saying, you know, knowledge comes from the mind of Mr. Modi or Mr. Jaitley or 2, 3 other people. Knowledge in this country is everywhere. You go to a farmer, you talk to him about agriculture, he'll tell you. I come to you, I'm telling you from this stage that as far as your businesses are concerned, you know much more than me. That's my starting point. And my starting point is, okay, if I want to understand what your requirements are, I need to come to you. And I need to have a conversation with you, I need to listen to you. Maybe I'll get irritated, you'll say something I don't like, okay, no problem. But that's what running a country is. Running a country isn't that, you know, we understand everything, now you guys just listen to us. What we do differently? 2 central problems. One central problem, India is simply not creating jobs. All the talk about growth and we're doing well, 8%, etc., please look at the jobs. And I keep saying this, China produces 50,000 jobs in 24 hours. India, according to our government, statement in Parliament produces 450 official jobs in 24 hours. We're the same size. We have the same capability. So, get to work on the jobs. How do you fix the job problem? You open up the banking sector to small and medium businesses. You transform small and medium businesses into big businesses. You support those businesses. And what is the government doing? The government's attacking them. You put technology into agriculture. You build a cold chain. You build food processing plants in agriculture. You link agriculture with the industrial system. Today, those 2 things are not linked. So these are the type of things that one should do. But what does one hear? One hears people being lynched, women being molested. So you've created so much anger in the system that it's unworkable. The conversation between all these different groups, that is India, is broken down. I know it because I speak to farmers, I speak to small and medium businesses. They literally are not talking to anybody. So you bring these people together, you listen to them, you say, okay, here is what we can do for you, here's what we can do for you, let's get it going and let's move forward. That's really what is required.
Rahul Gandhi, you said in Karnataka...
Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
You can't disconnect foreign policy, internal politics, the mood of the nation, what's going on in the world from each other.
Sure.
These things are connected. Now, you have a foreign policy which is completely non-strategic. One day you are doing something, the next day you're doing something else. You're behaving in a particular way. China takes a step in Doklam, your behavior completely shifts. Suddenly, China understands that by pressuring you a little in Doklam, they can completely change what the Indian government does. You go to Nepal, you make certain statements, and then suddenly a month later, you're doing something completely different. Nepal's gone.
So there is
Sri Lanka's gone. Maldives is gone. And what has to be understood is that this is not some sort of a little game that is being played. This is not something that, you go hug someone and it gets fixed. There's huge knowledge in the Indian system. There are people who understand these things. You know what those people say today? The Prime Minister knows his mind. We just tell him what he wants to hear. And when you run a system like that, you have accidents. So if you look at our relationships, they all haywire.
So there is a sense that India has lost out with its neighbors, but it has succeeded in forging better ties with the superpowers. What exactly would you do to ensure that India improves its relationship and we gain ground with our neighbors, and more specifically with Pakistan?
Well,
you have a new government there, and yet our relationship remains the same.
Pakistan is a special neighbor. Okay, Pakistan has structural problems in it. Pakistan is 4 or 5 different institutions. It's very difficult to understand who to speak to. Pakistan carries out terrorist activities in India. So Pakistan, we have a different type of relationship. But there's a lot of room for conversations with Nepal. There's a lot of room for conversations with Sri Lanka. There's a lot of room for all these conversations. But if your approach is that I'm not going to listen to you, and Nepal's a good case. I mean, Nepal went from being really excited about Prime Minister Modi to hating Prime Minister Modi within 2 months. So what you do is you base these things on strategies as opposed to tactics. And you base these things, you do these things after listening to the resources that you have. You don't do them on whims. That's really what the problem is. Also, what is happening in the world is that there is the rise of China. And the rise of China is a neighbor. And China is rising very, very quickly. And the United States is a superpower. India has to navigate its way. And India has to stand straight between these two powers. India has to maintain its integrity, its confidence between these two massive powers. And that is not going to happen with a tactical foreign policy. It is going to happen with a strategic foreign policy. So if you look at how the Prime Minister reacted, and I use the China example, if you look at how the Prime Minister reacted, China policy was going one way, and China reshaped that policy. And they know it. They know that we can reshape India's foreign policy. And it's because we don't have a strategy.
You said during the Karnataka elections that if the party and if your allies so wanted, you would be willing to be the Prime Minister. Do you still stand by that?
We've had a discussion with the allies, and what we've decided is that this is a 2-stage process. Stage 1 is we're going to get together and defeat the BJP. Stage 2 is once the election is over, we will decide what happens, because we really don't know.
But if they do want you, you would be willing to?
If they want me, if they want me, yeah, sure I would.
Okay, coming on to some personal issues. What would you say is the difference in leadership style between you and your mother, the former Congress president?
You know, I think I would say, of course, she's my mother, and I've learned a lot from her. She's taught me patience. I used to be much more impatient, and she's taught me how to be more patient. So that's something that she's very good at. Sometimes I tell her she's too patient. I think we both tend to listen. I used to listen much less. I listen much more now. I think that would be the similarities.
And the differences?
The differences, I'm thinking. She told me yesterday that she goes on feeling and I go on thinking. She goes on gut feeling and I go on thinking. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think that's part of it. See, also, how I view it is that leadership is an evolution. And it's something that is constantly changing. And you learn. You're like, okay, that didn't work, and this now, let's try this.
Yeah.
So I think at least in my evolution, I am going much more into listening to people and trying to understand deeply what it is that they're trying to do. And trying to see if I can work out a compromise or work with them to get what they require done. I don't view India as different blocks at war with each other. I don't view India as you're either pro-poor or pro-rich. I don't view that. I think that every single person in this country has a stake in this country, and whether he's rich, poor, anything, he has to be listened to and he has to be worked with to create a vision.
We have just about 15 minutes left. I'd like to take some questions from the floor. There's a question from Nikhil Nanda. What will you do to foster business and economic growth?
Where is Nikhil Nanda? Okay, hi. Again, the first step is bringing India together. And currently, there is no conversation between large parts of India. Farmers are not opposed to industry. Farmers would very happily work with industry. But you have to start that conversation. You have to make farmers believe, you have to make industry believe that a conversation is possible. So one element of it is diffusing the anger that is taking place, diffusing the sort of hatred that is being spread. You would certainly have a conversation with industry. You would ask industry, what is it exactly that your minimum requirements are? What are you looking for? And hopefully that would be a continuous conversation where you would sort of work with them to deliver what they want. They want stability. They want an environment where they can create jobs, where they can work. And that's the type of stuff that you would work towards.
There's a question from Sanjeev Sharma. What are the top 3 things you would do differently if you came to power?
I would focus, I would strengthen and focus small and medium industry. I would give farmers a feeling that what they do is critical to India. I would support them. And I would look at building a low-cost, high-quality education and healthcare system. And I would put significantly more money into healthcare and education than the current government is doing. I'm not saying that you don't need a private healthcare system. I'm not saying you don't need a private education system, but the direction, the quality must be demonstrated by top quality government institutions. And if you look, frankly, if you look at AIIMS or you look at the IIT, these are government institutions. And so putting in serious money into these institutions and showing people that, look, this is what top quality looks like, and working together with the private sector. Today you're not building any institutions. Please tell me, Shobna, what's the last institution the government of India built? Tell me. No, which is it? There isn't one. So we've had 4.5 years. We've had the Planning Commission turned into the Niti Aayog. Okay? But India is about building institutions. Where is the new AIIMS? You've multiplied the IITs. Okay? But have you changed the nature of the IITs? Have you transformed how the IITs relate to the rest of the world? Have you given the IITs the autonomy to do that? Have you given them the trust to do that? No, you haven't. So to me, I mean, let's start with the IITs. To me, an IIT is a global institution. It needs to be unlocked. It needs to be turned into a knowledge center, not a silo. And you can do that with multiple institutions. So that's something that you simply can't do if your intent is to capture institutions. You know, I was speaking to teachers the other day. 5,000-6,000 teachers came, and one of the teachers said, listen, I've been in the education sector, I'm a teacher, and now you have placed a vice chancellor on top of me who I don't respect. whose only skill is that he comes from the RSS. You've destroyed my institution. So, thinking strategically in a couple of areas. If you look at when India has been successful, you look at the white revolution, you look at the green revolution, you look at liberalization, you look at the telecom revolution. These are strategic moves. These are not tactical moves. And you're business people, you understand. These are moves that are designed to shape the environment. And this government is not doing any of them. There are huge, huge plays possible. There is a massive play possible in healthcare. There is a massive play possible in airline transportation. There is a massive play possible in job creation. But the thinking is all tactical. So that's how I would think about it. I would choose 2 areas or 3 areas, and I would try and do to those areas what was done in the 80s with telecom. And I would use everybody to say, okay, let us focus on this thing and let us transform healthcare. What do we need to do? You're a stakeholder, you're a stakeholder, you're a stakeholder, you're a stakeholder. Tell us what to do and let's hit this ball out of the park. And I would not just make it my idea. I would make it our idea and I would work together to deliver it. So those are the type of things I would be thinking about. I frankly think it's unbelievably exciting. I think that India is sitting, in healthcare, India is sitting on a gold mine. Literally on a gold mine. We are the Saudi Arabia of healthcare. If Saudi Arabia is oil, we are healthcare. We have the data, we have the processes, everything. And it's just waiting, and we're not able to see the value. We just refuse to see the value because we're interested in something else. Not we, but we.
I think your government had legislated your government had legislated about setting up more AIMS. Has that happened?
Look, the ex-boss is sitting here. I don't think our government built institutions the way they should have. I don't think, and I'm being critical, but I don't think building more AIMS is important. But I don't think that's the way to go. I think the way to go is build different AIMS. Build an institute. AIMS is a 1950s institution that is doing tremendous work, that has excellent people. AIMS is not a 21st century institution. This country needs to build 21st century institutions. So the way to think about it is either you transform AIMS, which can be done, or then you reimagine AIMS, which can be done. So it's not simply just let's go out there and replicate.
There's another question. It is the nature of strong governments to subvert institutions. How will you be different?
It's the nature of strong organizations to subvert institutions.
Not governments.
The Congress is a decentralized institution. It is not strong in the same way that the BJP is strong. It is very wide, but it is organized differently. So the Congress, frankly, even if the Congress wants to capture institutions, it can't do it. I mean, we basically don't have the design when we don't want the design. We believe that institutions belong to India. We don't believe that they belong to us. We don't believe that they belong to our party. We believe that they belong to this country. They believe that institutions should belong to them and be controlled by them. I mean, look, the RSS runs 70,000 schools. Actually, no, they run 130,000 schools. Right? Where does the money come from? 130,000 schools, where does the money come from? Where do you think? No, 130,000 schools, preaching a particular ideology, where's the money coming from? It's coming from the governments they run. It's coming from the government of Madhya Pradesh. It's coming from the government of Rajasthan. It's coming from the government of Chhattisgarh. And what's happening is money is being taken from the public sector education system and being piped into their own private institution. We don't do that.
But have the number of schools increased?
Oh yeah, of course they're increasing. I mean, I don't know, I'd like to ask some of my BJP friends here. I believe that BJP MLAs, MPs have to give MP-led money to RSS schools. So the entire vision is different. And what I'm saying is that a vision where one institution is attempting to capture all the institutions of the country is a dangerous vision.
Prakash Veer Arya, how many seats do you expect to win in 2019?
A lot.
Sandeep Mal, you're in a high pressure job. There's a lot of negativity in the environment. What keeps you going?
What keeps me going? I mean, one can say I've developed a thick skin. That's part of it. But I have a philosophy or a thinking that everybody has their perspective on the world. And I respect that and I accept that. So if somebody says something or somebody is critical, I can understand where he's coming from. So I don't get very agitated when I'm attacked or criticized. I mean, I don't, frankly, in fact, this criticism and stuff doesn't really disturb me like it used to. Because I understand that the criticism is actually coming from a different perspective. And my response is I want to listen. So why are you saying what you're saying? That's interesting. You're looking at it from there, I'm looking at it from here, and I want to start a conversation. That's sort of the idea of the hug.
Raj Nandini, how will you improve India's Human Development Index? Today, India ranks 136 out of 180 countries.
I think the one area where the UPA has a phenomenal record is pulling people out of poverty. I think the largest, I don't remember the exact number, but largest number of people were pulled out of poverty in the UPA time. And they were done because we had strategic programs that protected people. Narega, Right to Information, Tribal Bill. And there is a very important space for those programs. Some of those programs are misunderstood by industry. Narega was called a handout. But in fact, Narega was an injection of capital into the Indian village. Narega was designed to fire the rural economy, and Narega fired the rural economy. And Narega actually resulted in a tremendous amount of economic growth. So thinking about programs that support people, that protect people, and pull people out of the sort of poverty line. Again, Narega without liberalization, Narega without economic liberalization is a complete waste of time. They're connected. You can't do one without the other. So, thinking about what is the compromise? What do we do for the human index? And what do we do for the engine that is going to pull those people out of poverty? Poor people are not going to pull poor people out of poverty. Poor people are going to be pulled out of poverty by business. So, it's the link, and where I'm often sort of misrepresented is that I view the world as, oh, we have to help only poor people. No, I don't. I view the world as a conversation where big business has a role, small and medium business has a role, pharma has a role, but they got to be brought together to work. And certain compromises have to be made on all sides. So that's my vision for this thing. And to me, the central quality or the central skill is going to people, listening to them, talking to them, understanding where they're coming from, and not getting agitated if somebody is saying something you don't like. I mean, frankly, I'm sitting here, you're asking me questions, you've asked me relatively easy questions, but I'm perfectly happy to have, take sledgehammers, and I've done it. Why is the Prime Minister of India incapable of doing this? Why is the Prime Minister of India incapable of sitting here and saying, okay, throw whatever you have at me? Because his view is that I understand, I know, and they don't. My view is that, look, maybe I'm not able to see something from your perspective. Explain me your perspective. And maybe I won't like it, okay, no problem. I get irritated and then we'll talk again. So it's a completely different view. And what India frankly needs, I mean desperately needs, is that listening, that healing, that understanding. And it's all segments of India. It's not just one. It's not business or agriculture or... I'll speak to farmers and their thing to me is, sunte hi nahi hai. Hum keh ke thak gaye, sunte hi nahi hai. Now the guy is suffering. Okay, listen to him and say, I can't do anything. Listen to him, give him a hug and say, boss, I can't do anything. And the Indian farmer will say, thank you. Sun li. This listening is a very powerful thing in our system. It's a deeply philosophical thing. You go and you are heard, half the problem's gone.
We are totally out of time. One last question from me. They say the place at the top is very lonely. Do you have someone special in your life?
Do I have someone special in my life? This
we want a candid answer.
I have a lot of special people in my life. I have my mother, I have my sister, I have my friends. So I have a lot of special people in my life, yeah.
There's no one special person.
There's no one special person, yeah.
Rahul Gandhi, thank you so much for your very lucid and candid comments. Thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure.
Mrs. Bhartiya, may I request you to please present a small token of appreciation to Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly remain in your places until Mr. Gandhi and Mrs. Bhartiya have left the hall.